Okay, it looks like the second one is going to work. Let's try going back outside now. And then maybe I can get a link to send everybody else at the first one. Oh, that was stressful. One is working. All right, let me just get a link. I'll say hello in a second. Sorry, I need to get a link to send to the other people on the other one. How confusing. Let's see, let's get a copy, and then we'll go over here. Okay, hi, good morning, and welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. I have no idea what the heck is going on this week, or if it's today, but it was Friday, it was Monday, and now it's Tuesday as well. So I saw someone said it might be related to the election. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? I don't think we ever know exactly what's going on in the world. And all I know is that eventually this worked. So hopefully I did post a copy of the link to this live stream on the original. So hopefully everybody finds their way over here. Oh yeah, maybe it's the weather. It's not that cold though. It feels cold to me. It was 61 degrees here when I woke up this morning, but I know in the grand scheme of planet Earth, 61 degrees is not cold. It's just cold to me. Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I can't even say third time was the charm today. I think I tried 7 or 8 different attempts of redoing the first one, then the second one, then going back to the first one, and then eventually redoing the second one in the living room to see if being closer to the Wi-Fi router would help, and it did, but then I came back outside, so it's fine. So I don't think it has anything to do with my connectivity here. I think it has something to do with YouTube connectivity. So who knows what's going on with YouTube today, and maybe there's just a lot going on. Who knows? But anyway, welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 721. I'm Kristin Omdahl, and we're here live in Southwest Florida in my beautiful tropical backyard today. If you are joining me live, please say hello. If you end up watching the recorded version, please also feel welcome to say hello. Thank you, Ellen. This is the Meadow poncho, and you can find this pattern on my website in my crochet pattern shop. It is one of my favorites. I love it. I love the fact that you can wear it so many different ways. Unfortunately, the last time I wore it, I think I showed it to you with my favorite belt, which is a thin brown leather belt with brass beads on it, and I have lost it since that day. I literally have looked, well, I guess I must have missed something because it's still missing, but I can't find my belt anywhere, and it's my favorite belt, and I don't know if it got tossed in a bin as I was cleaning up after the podcast. I don't know. It obviously didn't go back in my closet where it belongs, so it must be somewhere yarny in a storage bin somewhere, and I can't find it, and I'm so sad. But anyway, I often think about that too, Grace, because Becker takes all my stuff. He takes my ponytails. He takes bikini tops. He takes, what else does he take? He takes combs. He takes bobby pins. I think he just likes things. How's the work going with my office? I filled up most of the bins, actually. I have not done storage on the bottom yet, and someone had reminded me of a great tip that I knew years ago when I used to use that type of storage for display at trade shows, and that is to zip tie all the corners so that they are more secure, and it just fortifies and strengthens the whole unit it's in general. And so I do want to zip tie all of those joins before I add any significant weight, even to the bottom storage bins. Not that I'm going to add a ton of weight, but the visible storage cubes are mostly full now. I've peppered in some books and some yarn and some other products that I wanted to have on display for the backdrop for video. So yeah, it's looking really cute, and I'll show you next time I go in there. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Somebody finished the Shadow Bloom. That's wonderful. Hopefully you enjoyed working that pattern. What else is everybody working on today? Oh, good. Carla's working on this poncho. Wonderful. Oh, I went to the other one. Let's see. Let me get on the right one now. There we go. Now I'm on the right page too, so I can see everybody's comments if I miss. Yeah, Becker, you know what, Becker, I think he just loves things that smell like me. I don't know why, but he always wants my stuff. Cherie's working on the Selma in Shishugi Bond. That's great. That'll be really pretty. Uh, Donna just finished the Shadow Bloom shawl yesterday. Wonderful. Yeah, that's a fun one too. Nanette just finished the Fernanda top. Wonderful. I love that one as well. Carrie's working on the Selma cardigan in Jaded Peacock. Ooh, that'll be another pretty color. Great. Bonnie's working on the Brooklyn shawl. That's another good one. Marsha's working on the Selma cardigan. Wow, we're going to have a lot of photos to see soon. I can't wait to see all of your finished objects. Speaking of which, I have a finished object too, and it's not quite ready to release yet. It still needs to dry a little bit more, but I do have a name for it. Oh, am I going to remember the name? What did I call this one? Huh, I better look it up. I believe I called it Nova. Yes, the knit Mobius pattern is going to be called the Nova, N-O-V-A, and it is drying right now. I washed it and blocked it overnight. It's drying now. It's almost dry. As soon as it's dry, I can take some photos of it, and then I will also, and then it will go into tech editing. So hopefully I'll have the pattern available tomorrow or the next day, and I've already started working on the tutorial video, so the supplemental tutorial video will probably come out the same time as the pattern. It is, I'm going to take my poncho off so I can show you. It's still a little damp, but you'll get an idea. So it's big enough that you can wear it long if you wanted to wear it as a capelet, which I love this look. Isn't that cute? Let's see, do I need to back this up a little bit? Did that help? That didn't really help. Let's see. Yeah, so you can wear it long and low like this, which I think is fabulous. You can also pull it up and have it long and narrow like this, which is also great, but it's still long enough that you can do this as well. And that, to be able to have all three of those versions was really important to me, and that's based on what size you make. So it really needed to go to 40 inches in length before I did the twist to turn it into a Mobius, so that I would have the ability to do all three of those different shapes. And let's see, where is the twist? There's the twist. So you can see you can wear it long and lean like this, all the way down on your shoulders as a capelet. I mean, if you wanted to just cover up your arms over a dress, this would be adorable to wear it like this too. You could even pin it if you wanted a little more modesty right there. That would be great too. I mean, you have so many options with this size, this type of piece. This is Knit Carla, and it's done in a beautiful wrapped drop stitch pattern. Isn't that pretty? And this is a 2-ball project in Be So Sporty Bling. This particular color is called Be So Sporty Gold Bling Peach Sherbet. So pretty. It's a little damp, so I'm going to set it down to dry a little bit more, but very, very excited to be able to style that for the photos later today, and then release the pattern soon. Yay! I did bring, I don't know if we'll run out of time or not, I did bring some yarn to show you some little tips about how we get started on this project. Oh, thanks Judy. Judy's posting a link to the patterns that I've been talking about today, the yarns I've been talking about, and now she's posting to the black bodysuit too, which you know is my new wardrobe staple. Did I design these patterns? Yes, Deborah, I did design these patterns. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to show you for that Mobius is that we started with a technique called a provisional cast on. And if you've never done a provisional cast on before, it is very similar to long tail cast on, which is quite a basic. So you've probably, if you're even if you're a beginner knitter, you've probably done long tail cast on before. So the only difference between long tail cast on and provisional cast on is one of the strands is your working yarn and one of the strands is a contrast yarn that you're using to temporarily place your stitches on, because at the end of the pattern then you will pick up those live stitches again so that you can end up making a seam in the pattern with your live cast on and live bind off stitch with your live cast on stitches with your last row of knit stitches, and look at how beautiful and seamless that seam ends up. And it is because we use the provisional cast on so that there isn't a bulk of a cast on. You end up using the live stitches and using a 3-needle bind off. We won't have time to get to 3-needle bind off today, but I was hoping that we could at least get to provisional cast on, and if not, we could also get to the wrap stitches that we use to make those beautiful cluster stitches in the stitch pattern. There will be a tutorial video too, but sometimes I think it's fun to do little snippets of the tutorials live, because then if you have live questions, we can go over them live. All right, so when you're doing provisional cast on, you want to hold your contrast scrap yarn and your working yarn both in your right hand with your knitting needle, and then you're going to hold the two yarns just like you do for long tail cast on. So long tail cast on, you're making a loop around your thumb and pulling the loop from your index finger through the loop on your thumb. Okay, so at this point, you want to make sure that it is the scrap yarn that's around your thumb and the working yarn that's around your index finger, so that when you loop through the thumb loop and pull the loop on your index finger through the loop on your thumb, what you're getting is your live stitch as a loop on the knitting needle and the scrap yarn wrapped around the base of it on the bottom. Can you see that? So it's really important that you hold them in the right position, otherwise you could do the opposite, right? And if you did the opposite, then you would end up having live scrap yarn stitches and temporarily placement of your working yarn. So you want to make sure that they're done in with the scrap yarn around your thumb and the working yarn around your index finger. There will be a tutorial video that goes over this in a lot more detail and with a lot better close-ups, but I just wanted to point some of those tips out today. And this pattern is done in a multiple of 5. So if you were going to modify this pattern, as pretty as it is as a twisted Mobius cowl, it could also be a great rectangular shawl. It could also be a great scarf. It could also be a great Afghan or throw. So keep in mind that if you're modifying, yes, Bonnie, this is called provisional cast on. If you are modifying this in any way, you would want to do a multiple of, what did I say, a multiple of 5 stitches. Okay, then I'm going to knit 2 rows before I show you the next part. Wendy said that she had something. Your past attempts at provisional cast on, is that what you mean? It sounds more complicated than it is. It sounds complicated to use 2 stitches or 2 different yarns, but if you think of it in terms of being the exact same movements as long tail cast on, which is definitely a basic beginner cast on, it's not that much different then. So hopefully that helps. Ah, you had issues with knitting originally. I see. Okay. Okay, and then in a few minutes I'll show you how to recognize your stitches on that provisional cast on, because that's another big thing to learn, is to know where to pick up those stitches and remove them from the scrap yarn at the end of the project. That's probably more challenging than actually doing the cast on, is figuring out how to deconstruct the cast on at the end, which I go over in detail in the tutorial video too. Kiranjit, it's okay if you cast on differently. There's, I think, hundreds of ways to cast on in your knitting. It's you can use whatever technique you like. Okay, so now this is pretty simple, but you know, there's so many different ways to do it, and if you find a way that works for you, and it makes you happy and it gives you the results you want. I say this all the time with all sorts of techniques. If you're getting the results you want with whatever techniques you use, you're good. You don't have to do it the way someone else does it. Now, if you're doing it a different way than something you watch and you're not getting the results you want, that's when you may want to consider changing your techniques. But I can't say this enough. If your techniques are different than mine, but they work for you and you get the results you want, there is no judgment here. There's no wrong way to be creative if you're getting the results you want. It's only if you're not getting the results you want that you may want to consider changing your techniques. But if you are getting the results you want, do it however you like. Don't let anybody tell you you're doing it wrong. Please, please. If I can say one message at all today, that is so important to me, because I know there's a lot of people out there that will tell you that things have to be done their way, and that is not true. It's just not true. Anyway, so now we're ready to do the drop stitch. And when I have talked about drop stitches before, I've done a different technique to show you, because I was showing you elongated twisted drop stitches, which have a benefit as well. They, hold on a second, a self-taught knit. Crocheting Mammy is having trouble learning to knit. It's if the space is getting larger between your needles, perhaps you are not keeping consistent tension. If it's possible you are dropping stitches and that's why they're getting wider, I would just keep practicing and maybe watch some beginner videos and watch how other people do it, and maybe see if there's something that's missing in your technique that isn't as consistent as what you see other people doing. Without seeing your results, I have no way to know what's going wrong, but I would just keep at it. It could be tension, it could be drop stitches, or it could be, I don't know, something else even. But I would continue watching videos and continue practicing, because the more you practice at anything, the better you get. Okay, so in the past I've shown you how to do elongated twisted drop stitches, and that's where we wrapped around both needles twice and then the original needle once, and as we pulled that, we got the drop stitch and dropped the extra loops simultaneously and got a twisted drop stitch. We don't want that for this particular technique. What we want for this particular technique is a drop stitch that is not twisted. So how we're going to do that is by adding the extra wraps just on the working needle, not on this needle. And as we do that, those extra wraps will stay on this needle until the end of the row, where we drop them off as we knit the next row. So let me show you how we do that. We're going to insert our right hand needle as if to knit, then yarn over 3 times. It's 2 extra wraps plus your actual knit stitch. And then you pull the whole thing off the needle, and all 3 of those wraps stay on the new working needle. So we'll go into the next stitch and then yarn over 3 times and pull through. Insert your needle into the next stitch, yarn over 3 times and pull through. So it is the 2 extra wraps plus the wrap. Yes, I have lots of beginner tutorial videos, and Judy just posted a link to a knitting playlist that I have here on YouTube, and I have lots of beginner knitting patterns too. Oh, welcome, Chris. I'm glad this is your first time here, and I'm glad you're realizing that everybody's so friendly. We have an amazing community here, and everybody, including me, is super happy to have you here, so welcome. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do this across the row, and then I'll show you what it looks like for the next row. Did I miss someone else? We have a Matt here this morning too. You're welcome, Crocheting Mammy. All right, I'm going to speed this along so we can get to the next row, and I'll show you how we drop these and work into them, because this is really cool too. Okay, so now let's see if we're going to be able to see this. Okay, so now I had 15 stitches, which was a multiple of 3. And notice how we have quite a few more wraps than 15 stitches now. And that's because we have 3 wraps for each stitch. So ultimately, what would that be? 45 wraps on our needle. We don't have 45 stitches, we have 45 wraps. So what we need to do now is grab the stitches and drop the wraps. And if you see here, if you look down there, the loop that comes all the way down to the previous stitch, that's your stitch. And the ones that are just wrapped around the needle, those are the extra wraps. Stitch, extra wraps. Stitch, extra wraps. So now we're going to, with our yarn in the back behind our needle, we're going to insert the needle as if to purl and slip the stitch only, dropping the wraps, to the right hand needle. And we're only going to do 5 at a time. Okay, so we've got our 5 elongated stitches moved over to our right hand needle now. Now with our left hand needle, we're going to insert into the front of all 5 of those stitches, so that now we have both needles wrapped around those 5 stitches, and we can knit into them now. So we're going to do a knit, yarn over, knit, yarn over, and knit into all 5 of those stitches. Now and then drop the 5 loops off the needle. So now what we've done is we haven't increased or decreased, even though it looks like we have. We've taken 5 stitches, clustered them together, and then worked 5 stitches into them, so that we have now maintained our same stitch count. Took 5 stitches and we made 5 stitches, even though we clustered them together. So let's do that again. We'll slip the next 5 stitches, stitch only, drop the extra loops as you go. Now, the tutorial video will show this a lot more close up. I'm just showing you again this morning. This is a type of a drop stitch. Yes, Holly. Okay, so we slipped all 5 of the stitches to the right hand needle and dropped the extra loop, so now they're long. We're going to insert our left hand needle into the front of all those stitches, and then working into all 5 of those stitches, we'll work a knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1 into all 5 of those loops, and then drop them off the left hand needle. And we've got another cluster. And we'll do that again. Slip the next 5 stitches to the left hand needle, or to the right hand needle, and then insert your left hand needle into the front of all 5 of those stitches and work a knit 1, yarn over, knit 1. I'll answer the questions in a second as soon as I finish this. Okay, and knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1. And so now we have maintained our original stitch count. We're back to 15 stitches, and remember I said this is a multiple of 5. We have 3 sets of that multiple of 5. So now the next 2 rows are to knit across, and you can see that you would just knit each stitch across and then knit each stitch across again. And then you would go back to the wrapping stitch row and then the dropping and clustering stitch row. It is really beautiful, isn't it? And it goes quickly too. Anytime you do, yes, I did this specifically to look like broomstick, Donna. I'm working on a broomstick crochet wrap that's going to look very similar to it. But yes, this is a knit stitch that absolutely looks like broomstick crochet. And it's a lot more Is that the same stitch pattern as the Bianca top you made last summer? No, this is not. Nope. That is, like I said, that was with an elongated twisted drop stitch. This one is different. This is a wrapped drop stitch where you carry the wraps across the row, and when you drop the extra wraps on the following row, the stitches are not twisted, and that's what allows you to be able to work into all 5 of them because they're straight. They're not twisted this time. You know, there's all sorts of reasons to do different techniques, and some techniques work for certain things, and some things do The cable's coming loose? Yeah, it is. I don't like needles like this. I just happened to grab this one. I prefer needles that are not interchangeable because I do not like the way they come loose. Now there is a set from Adi Turbo where they actually do lock into place. I think I've had a set of those before. Those I like better, but in general, regular interchangeable sets, I do not like them because of the way they come loose. Anyway, I prefer needles that are solid. Except for the Adis. They do a clicking set that does not come unlocked, and that's pretty cool. They're pricey, but it's worth it if your stitches don't fall apart, if your needles don't fall apart. Once your needles fall apart, they're not worth anything. Not when you drop a bunch of stitches. Let's see. Does anybody have any other questions? Oh, thanks, Judy. She's posting a link to the Bianca knit lace dress that someone is asking about. Yes, it is a drop stitch in that pattern, but that's what I was saying earlier today. That is a different kind of a drop stitch. What I'm showing here is a different kind of a drop stitch. And you know what? There's a reason for everything, right? Oh, well, I'm glad you like your interchangeables, Chris. And is everybody has different tastes, right? And thank goodness there's enough variety of products to go around for everybody to find something they like. I'm glad you like yours. All right, so this pattern that I've been talking about today is called the Nova Knit Mobius. It is a 2-ball project with Be So Sporty gold bling in color peach sherbet, so you can order the 2 balls in whatever color you like, and that would work for any of my number 2 sport weight yarns. It'll be a 2-ball project. The pattern for the Nova Mobius will probably be out tomorrow or the next day, and it will include the written instructions as well as a supplemental tutorial video. Yes, if you go to my Amazon shop, I do have knitting needles in there that I like to use. Thanks for the link, Judy. Thanks for all the links. I love the color of peach sherbet too. I especially love it with the gold thread in there. It just warms it up so beautifully. I love this color. So pretty. All right, does anybody have any other questions? Donna, thank you. Yes, Judy is amazing. Thank you for all of the links. I know everybody appreciates it so much. Would a larger needle make it more lacy, or would you recommend a larger needle? Carla, it depends on what you mean. Would you like your loops longer? If you would like those loops longer, you would wrap more times and make them longer. Let's see if that's what you're asking, because I wrapped 3 times to make them this height. So it was 2 extra wraps plus the wrap for knitting the stitch. If you wanted to make those longer, you would add additional wraps. You could add as many wraps as you want. You could add 6 wraps and they could be super long. And if you wanted to make your clusters bigger, you could do more than 5 stitches. You could do 7 or 9 stitches to make your clusters bigger. But yes, if you want them longer, Carla, I would recommend adding more wraps, not going to a larger needle, because you still want these stitches in the 2 knit rows. You want them to still be not firm, but you know, an appropriate tension. When you go really large in your knitting needles, you end up getting a very loose project that doesn't have that. I feel like you'd compromise some of the texture of the fabric if you went too high in knitting needle, whereas if you added more wraps to make them longer, I think you'd get more of, you'd get the same kind of a look and the same kind of a fabric, and then you would get the lacier, longer loops. Hopefully that makes sense. That would be my recommendation. Yes, we have people from all over today, US, Japan, Scotland, Canada. That's wonderful. Welcome everybody. And Ireland. Did Becker and Bjorn say hi today? No, they did not. But you can see Becker sunning himself over there. There's Becker. Boy, does that look warm and cozy or what? And I don't know where Bjorn is. He might still be in the house. They probably think it's too cold out here too. We're all a bunch of babies down here in South Florida. Oh. All right, well, I don't see any more questions. So thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I thank you for your patience in finding the second version of the podcast. That was some crazy technical issues. We had some crazy technical issues again this morning, but luckily they worked themselves out, thank goodness. But thanks again for taking time out of your busy day as well. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the show and tell, a little makeshift tutorial, chatting with me and everyone else here. Thanks for all the great questions, everybody. It definitely makes the podcast more special. Thanks to all of our moderators for keeping it nice and safe and clean here. Thanks to Judy for all of the amazing links. I know everybody appreciates getting them in real time. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.